Hello friends, this video on air and water pollution part 14 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Try to understand the causes of water pollution. Only then we will know how to control it. So just look at this picture on the screen. It is so sad to see that this is how our water bodies look like. This is how rivers look like. So they don't even look like rivers, they almost look like dustbins. Like all the dirt and dust and the waste materials of the entire city has been directly disposed of into the rivers. So we really don't bother about the water. We don't really want to take care of the water. But with the same water we want to consume in our home, we do not just drink it like that. We first boil the water and we make sure that the water which we are drinking is clean and pure. Now, when we are not taking care of the water bodies, then how can we expect to get clean and fresh drinking water? So, we should stop these kind of activities, and that is a major step for control of water pollution. So, now let us look at the causes. The first cause would be wastewater. So, from where this wastewater comes? It comes from the drains of the industries and factories which contain a lot of chemicals which are washed down along with the water. So direct discharge of these kind of wastewater from industries and factories into water bodies cause pollution because these chemicals are very harmful and toxic. Untreated sewage. What is sewage before that? So sewage is nothing but the wastewater which comes out of every community. So that is sewage. Now, proper disposal of sewage is extremely important. Now, what do we mean by proper disposal? That means the sewage should be first treated, and treatment of sewage would mean converting more toxic chemicals which might be present in the sewage into less toxic ones, and that is known as, that entire process of this conversion of more toxic to less toxic is called sewage treatment. So it undergoes through a lot of processes where all the undesirable substances, most of them are removed, and therefore less toxic things are then passed or disposed of into the water bodies. For example, flush toilets take sewage waste quickly and hygienically away from the homes, right, as compared to the traditional toilets. So sewage disposed into water untreated can cause high water pollution because sewage contains a lot of harmful substances. It can contain human excreta, it can contain so many harmful chemicals, it can contain harmful gases. So without treating, sewage should not be disposed of into water. Chemical wastes. Now chemicals coming out of factories or maybe substances like insecticides or pesticides or chemical fertilizers, if they are also washed down into the rivers, they can also cause serious pollution. Plastics. The plastics, we all know they are non-biodegradable. That means they cannot be broken down or they cannot be decomposed in nature. So they will always remain like that. Now at the same time, these plastics also contain many harmful substances, and also it is very light in weight, therefore it starts floating very easily. Now when plastic floats on water, many a times it gets consumed by fishes or other aquatic animals. Now since plastics are cannot be broken down further, so those organisms are also not able to digest it, and they choke inside their body and kill them. So plastics can actually kill a lot of aquatic animals. Insecticides and pesticides. Now due to increasing population, we also want to increase the crop productivity to meet the food requirements of the increasing population. Now while increasing the crop productivity, what we are doing is we are making use of a lot of insecticides, pesticides, chemical fertilizers, and all of these actually contain chemicals which are poisons. So what happens is when we apply a lot of insecticides and pesticides to the field, and if immediately after that it rains, so sometimes these insecticides and chemicals get washed away by the rainwater, and then they get disposed of in the nearby water body, and that is how the nearby water body gets polluted. So too much of use of insecticides and pesticides should be avoided because it indirectly causes water pollution. Disposal of dead bodies into water also causes pollution, because dead bodies, what will happen to the dead bodies? Now the dead plants or animals, they get decomposed by microorganisms like bacteria and fungi. Now if the entire process of decomposition takes place in water, now for decomposition, that means for breaking down the dead bodies by bacteria and fungi, they also need a lot of oxygen. So what will happen is these microorganisms will use up all the oxygen present in the water, and the water body will have oxygen scarcity. Now in the absence of oxygen or a limited supply of oxygen, the aquatic life will not be able to survive, because all the aquatic plants and animals, they also need oxygen. But now since a lot of oxygen is getting used up for decomposition of the dead bodies, therefore there comes scarcity of oxygen. So this is also not good for the aquatic life. So it threatens aquatic life. So we should always make sure that these kind of chemical wastes or wastewater or untreated sewage, they should not be disposed of directly into water bodies. Now some of the chemicals which are extremely harmful are lead, mercury, cadmium. So these are some of the extremely toxic chemicals, and these chemicals are present in substances like batteries, petrol. So you find lead in petrol, you find these things in batteries. So if you dispose of such substances into water bodies, you are actually disposing of such harmful chemicals into water. Now another important cause of water pollution is algal bloom. What is algal bloom? Let us see what is this algal bloom, a new name for you. So what happens is sometimes there is excessive growth of algae on the water surface. So by now all of you know what is algae. It is a microorganism which looks like a green carpet on the surface of water. You would have often seen it on a pond or a lake. So sometimes what happens is algae grows excessively in the water body, and they grow so much that it forms a carpet-like structure on the water surface, which imparts a color to the water body. Like mostly if it is a green algae, so it gives a green colored carpet on the surface of water. Now this can happen in fresh water bodies as well as marine water bodies also. And the discoloration of the water is due to the high density of the pigmented cells. For example, in case of green color, so it is due to some pigments which imparts that green color. Now, this is an example of how it looks. So you see a green structure on the surface of the water. Now the question is, what can happen? I mean, okay, even if there is this growth of algae, how does it matter? Let it be there. But we cannot let it be there. That's because this excessive growth of algae is called algal bloom, and this algal bloom is a threat to the existing aquatic life. So it harms the aquatic life which is existing in that water. So we cannot let it be there. So that is the harmful effect of algal bloom. Now the question is, why suddenly there is so much of growth of algae? What causes excessive growth of algae? This excessive growth is due to excess of nutrients. If there is too much of nitrates or phosphates present in the water, this favors the growth of algae. Now what happens is, since as I said, we use excess of fertilizers these days. So fertilizers contain a lot of phosphates. Now when those fertilizers get washed away to the nearby water body, so the water body also gets enriched with a lot of phosphates. Now, excess amount of carbon, nitrogen, phosphates, they favor the growth of algae. And due to the presence of excess of nutrients, excess of favorable factors, the algae start growing. So the algae grows so much. Now, all an algae needs to grow is sunlight, nutrients, slow moving water. That's all it needs. So what algae needs? It needs sunlight. It needs nutrients in the form of phosphates, nitrates, carbon, and it needs slow moving water. So that is why you will not see these kind of algal bloom in fast running water. So in river water or in oceans you will not see it much, but they are mostly seen in those areas of a water body where the water doesn't move that fast. Now, what are the harmful effects of algal bloom? Let us quickly see. It can be toxic to humans as well as animals, because basically the surface of your water contains something which have harmful chemicals. Now, when these algal blooms are present, what do? They compete with the other aquatic life for nutrients. So that's how it starves the other aquatic life also. A lot of toxic substances get released to the water, so the water becomes polluted. So any water body with algal bloom, the water of that water body is not suitable for drinking purposes. So if you drink that water, you are sure to fall ill. Kills aquatic life, because due to so much of algae present on the surface of water, the entire aquatic life gets, and that's how it threatens their survival. Increases treatment costs for drinking water. So now, as I said, the water is no more suitable for drinking. But if, let us suppose, if that water body is the only source of water for that locality, in that case, the water has to be treated. It has to be purified so that it becomes capable for drinking. Now, that involves huge cost. So economically also, algal bloom is like a disadvantage, because it involves so much of cost. Another important cause is excessive use of insecticides and pesticides. As I said, if too much of insecticides or pesticides or chemical fertilizers are used in the agricultural field, and immediately after that, if the field is irrigated, that is, if the field is watered, or if rain falls, what happens is these chemicals get washed away from the field to the nearby water body, and that's how the water body gets polluted. In fact, this is how the water body gets excess nutrients, which favors the growth of algae. So these fertilizers can actually pollute the water, and it can harm the aquatic life. So here also the same effects. It will be toxic to humans and animals, it will kill aquatic life, increases treatment costs for drinking water, and it also has adverse effect on plant growth. So it anyways have all these disadvantages, and on top of that, it was applied on the agricultural field, right, to improve the crop productivity. So that also doesn't happen. So there was no point applying too much of insecticides and pesticides, because excess application of chemical fertilizers can actually deteriorate the soil quality. So chemical fertilizers or insecticides or pesticides, they should always be applied in the right amount, only when needed. So now the next important factor is sewage. Now, what is sewage? As I said, it is the wastewater that needs to be removed from a community for healthy living. So wastewater which comes out of your washrooms, out of your toilets, which contains excreta, feces. So all these things are present in the sewage. So it immediately needs to be removed, so that it does, because it contains a lot of disease causing organisms. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.